Concerns are growing in Uganda over its plans to end the HIV/AIDS, of course, epidemic in the country by 2030 due to its strategic funding from the U.S., but Washington has not yet committed to a renewal just weeks before the expiry of the current funding. Now, several programs, including psychosocial support for people living with HIV, are at risk of being stopped. As reported from Kampala, without the funding forthcoming, the ongoing activities could be disrupted. Now, let's have more of that in this report.
Martin Nwamanya has been on special medication all his life. He was born with HIV and understands how important antiretrovirals are, literally a case of life and death.
Waking up every day and knowing you have to take a pill every day on time, it is not an easy thing, but because it is your life, it is your source of life, it's what keeps you alive, that is the only way you have to keep taking it.
Yet despite this treatment since birth, Martin only learned about his condition when he was 13, and he wasn't told by his parents, who refused to have the conversation with him.
I remember the counselor who disclosed to me told me the first stage of healing from all this is acceptance, followed by not blaming anyone for this which you are, because in my family, a family of 5, I am the only one who was positive.
Despite the advice, Martin couldn't help but blame his parents. It was a moment which left him emotionally and psychologically drained. Yet he was able to persevere, safe in the knowledge this could live a normal life with the medication. For now, this lifeline is now under threat. The U.S. government has not confirmed if it will continue funding Uganda's efforts to end the HIV/AIDS epidemic. Washington is saying the country's new anti-LGBTQI legislation is discriminatory and reduces access to treatment for people in that community. Martin is among 1.4 million people in the country who live with HIV. The vast majority of them are on treatment. Without it, their very existence could be in peril.
There are so many risks. One of them is that immunity is very low. That means they are vulnerable to so many opportunistic infections. They are vulnerable to tuberculosis. They are vulnerable to meningitis.
Uganda's HIV response is heavily dependent on donor funding, with over 85% coming from the international partners, including the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR. Uganda has made strides in the fight against AIDS, with deaths dropping by 37% between 2016 and 2021. But campaigners warn the country could lose these gains if no sustainable programs are developed. Programs including psychosocial support for people living with HIV and preventive measures like safe male circumcision risk being stopped.
In all this scenario that we are in all this fear that we are in, of course I'm scared about the medication, but I'm more scared about the psychosocial support services that are actually being catered for in our health facilities, because those are not government funded.
HIV campaigners are now calling for a commitment from the Ugandan government to step in and commit. But President Yoweri Museveni is hesitant and says the country will find other funding donors. Uganda launched an AIDS trust fund, but no progress has been made due to lack of commitment from organizations involved in the fight against HIV. For now, Martin and many more like him will continue to worry that the drugs their very lives depend on will quickly dry up. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.